Welcome. I'm Rielly Karsh.
I'm Tovah Copan.
We are thrilled to bring you the We Go Boldly podcast.
Let's talk big burning questions, life changes, and maybe a bit of personal business.
Let's be bold and brave together. Are you ready?
I am. Here comes the show.
Hello, and welcome to We Go Boldly, the podcast where we celebrate women stepping into their power and living their most authentic lives. I don't know why I can't remember our intro sentence, you guys. I'm going to have to get a teleprompter because it's what we do all day. We are thrilled you guys are joining us. It's the end of season 12. Hard to believe it's the end of July, all of those things. We want to remind you, as we always do, about our weekly women's circle. And the more I think about it and the more I give to the circle, the more it gives back to me. And I think that it is such a underestimated, underutilized tool for you guys out there. It's a place where you will be supported. You will find other like-minded women. You will gain skills and knowledge on all those things. And I think most importantly is you will feel like you belong. It is a place of belonging. And in the world we live in right now, really like nothing more important than community and building community that is healthy and loving and kind and empathetic and all of those things. So if you are interested, we would love to have you join us. We have more information on our website at goboldlyinitiative.com/weekly circle. You can always message us and ask us whatever you want to know about the circle. We would love to have you. All of that being said, it is our final episode of the season, and we're recording on a new platform and we're trying some new stuff, and it's so we're figuring it all out, but we want to make sure we wrap up this season 12 in the right way. So before we dive into that, Tovah, what's happening? How are you? What's going on?
I'm good. I'm tired today. I don't know why. So if you see me yawning, if you're on YouTube, hey, go to YouTube and watch us and follow us. But if you're on YouTube and you watch me yawn, it's not because I'm bored. I'm just like really tired today specifically. And I feel like I slept well last night, but who's to say? Maybe it was one of those sleeps where it's like, yeah, that was a good taste. Now I want more. But I'm really excited to wrap up the season. I'm excited to reflect a little bit. I've been thinking a lot about these episodes and how interesting it has been to see the people who are like tracking kind of where they started and where they ended. And it's the same, right? They're doing the same things. There have not been a lot of twists and turns. And then I also love hearing the stories of the people who did all the twists and turns. But I don't know if you have a big takeaway from this season. I think my biggest takeaway, which is maybe something that we already knew, but it gets emphasized again, which is how important it is to not just write your own story, but to share your story with other people.
Yeah. Definitely sharing the story and being open and vulnerable and honest about, what's going on, I think is super important. My biggest takeaway from the season is really, oh God, there's so many, like understanding who you are, right, is essential to being able to be the driver of your story. And that requires, as we've talked about at length, like being able to hear your inner voice, being able to trust your intuition, working through your childhood trauma, whatever it is. Like it requires all of those things to have happened and or to be happening, right? Like it doesn't have to all be like wrapped up in a pretty little bow, because that's unrealistic. But like to understand that, you are who you are and what direction that's going to take is dependent on, your understanding of who you are and your willingness to be authentic and to be yourself and to bring your whole self to the table.
Yeah. So to that end, you and I talked about this before, but I realized after our conversation when you got to interview me that I had left some stuff out, and I don't realize I don't think I was consciously leaving things out. But I've been sitting with it now for a while and realized that if I didn't share the whole story, it would be just not complete. And the nice thing about us having a podcast is that we actually get another bite at the apple to be like, oh, hey, I forgot this part. And so, one thing I wanted to add, because I don't think I realized for much of my life how much it mattered, which was having the adults and some adults being in my life dealing with substance abuse. And I think that as I, you know, grew up, I looked back and I thought, oh, that's no big deal. Like, I don't even remember anybody drinking. Everybody, like you and I, had very different experiences when it came to substance abuse in our lives. And like, I was like, I don't even remember any of this. And it wasn't until much later, wasn't until I left my marriage, that I read the book Codependent No More. And there were like a lot of signs, and it took me a long time. As you know, you were part of me talking about it, like long
Mm.
time reading this book. Um, that I was like, oh, maybe some of my behavior, the people pleasing, the perfectionism, the lack of desire to rock the boat, has to do with growing up in a household where there was alcoholism. And I don't think I saw that until then, really. And then I got a daily reader that was a Al Anon daily reader. And it was like, why is every page talking to me? And every once in a while, there would be one that wasn't, but it was like, oh. So I left that out yesterday, and I don't know, or when we recorded, which was yesterday, sneak peek behind the scenes, but a couple weeks ago when you were listening. And I don't know that it was intentional, but it really bothered me afterwards that I hadn't talked about it, because I do think, you and I have had very different coping mechanisms through our lives. But the perfectionism is certainly a byproduct of dealing with substance abuse. And for me, you and I kind of took each different why, each whatever. I can't think of words. Tired, remember? But like, I went hardcore people pleasing, and you did
Yeah.
not. And I went like boundaries like a sieve, and you did like boundaries like a moat.
Yeah.
But they were both trauma responses. and
Absolutely.
and so I just want to highlight, like, sharing my story helped me, and not just other people. Like, hopefully it helps other people, but like, sharing my story was like, oh, you're forgetting some pieces, and those pieces are important, and
Yeah,
and that is important.
absolutely. I think it's important to recognize that storytelling and acknowledging your own story
Mm,
is hard, but also when it involves other people and when it involves people who are currently in your life, who you care about, who you love, and you were conditioned to protect, that it becomes very hard to talk about them in any way that could be like thought of as negative, I guess, right? It's very hard to talk about people you love who you know currently respect and want in your life and have worked to have a good relationship with, to talk about that part of them. But it is such an integral part of your own story, and this is something, my mom and I have talked about this at length, because it's hard, and it's hard to navigate, and it's hard to
mm,
know, like, where's the boundary and where is the right place to stop, and what's your story to tell and what's their story to tell. And especially as a child of substance use disorder, like, that becomes a huge part of your story. The substance disorder is a part of the other person's story, and maybe they don't want to tell it, and there's so much
right.
shame and discomfort and just negative emotions around that. Though I don't think there should be, because it's a disease, which took me 35 years to be able to say, just for everyone else out there. But it becomes very hard to tell your story without telling someone else's story, and that's where I think it gets murky, and that's why we struggle, all of us, to
Hmm.
do that. I've worked to be able to, and I still struggle. Like, I talked about myself during my interview, and I have to caveat everything with, like, please don't hate my parents. Like they're great people.
Right.
And that goes to, I think, a lot, and I'm detracting from our other conversation, but that goes to our culture, right? Of like shaming people for their shortcomings and shaming people for their perceived failures and the things that they didn't accomplish or do right.
Right.
And that's unfortunate because that doesn't help anyone heal or grow or become better. Shame is not a a, a thing that teaches. It's a thing that creates, I don't know, mental health issues.
But I think also it goes to owning your story. So you and
Yeah,
I just realized both did not talk about, we talked about our kids, but we didn't talk about the parts of our story where it's our kids' story to tell because they're still little
right.
people. Um, but you and I have been through some stuff
Yeah,
with our kids for sure. And we have, you know, the public forum isn't the place to share those stories because our kids get the opportunity to write their own stories. But when we talk about writing your own story and sharing your story, maybe it's with a dear friend. It does not have to be on a podcast. Like maybe it's in a journal, right? Like
yeah,
I look at my son and his reaction to some of the things that have happened in his life, and he'll just be like, no, it's fine. It's fine. And I just want to be like, it's not fine.
right.
But like, not only are you, and I have gotten him close enough to be like, it's not fine, but it is what it is. And I'm like, all right, I will take that. I will take that.
Yeah,
But like not only are you, when you're writing your own story, you're acknowledging what you're dealing with, and writing your own story, we talk about it in the sense of like choosing your vision, but also acknowledging your story and being able to say like, this is what I've been through, and it helps you own it and come to terms with it. Like when you write your own, when you're writing your story and you're like, oh no, that did happen to me, um and you know, I would say almost, well, all of the living alcoholics in my life are in recovery basically, so like, and have been for decades.
yeah,
But that doesn't mean that there aren't parts of that story that are my story versus their story. And it's when you force yourself to write it down or share it with somebody, I think it allows you to have ownership of what has happened to you in your life.
yeah. And to acknowledge that it happened and
Yeah.
that it was bad and painful and you're grieving it and all these feelings that you might have about it. And you can acknowledge what it taught you, right? Like it's just an acknowledgement, really.
Yeah.
Like I don't mean just like whatever. I mean it's an acknowledgement of your existence, right? Because it is an integral part of your story. It doesn't have to be the defining part of your story. It doesn't have to be who you are at your core. I think we should get away from that.
Yes.
um but it is a part of the story and it's an important one and it explains certain things and the reasons we make decisions the way we do and how we've moved through life. And so ignoring that is a part of the disease, right? Like,
Mm.
because when you live in a house with substance use disorder, you are lying all the time. You are a kid who is lying to everyone. You don't want anyone to know. You are pretending. It is, you know, it is full of shame and discomfort. And so when that's how you exist, like unlearning that is a huge part of your story and has to be shared. And maybe I'm sharing too much right now, but it has to be shared in order for you to get past it. So if that helps anyone out there, yay. I feel like I've done my job.
Well, and I think it does. And I'm sure it does. And there's shame with lots of things that you and I haven't experienced either. And so I think, like you said, it's and we use the word just, and I think it's there because it's like just the mere acknowledgement of what happened to you can be
Yeah.
incredibly powerful. And I think about our most recent not us guest, Mel, and how she shared her story of all of the medical situations that she was going through and how catastrophic it was and how she wasn't being listened to. And um, she didn't feel, she has come out on the other end and she has learned things from that helped her deal with her next medical crisis. And like, but she didn't feel the need to either over, like, acknowledging isn't like making a bigger deal out of something that it is, but
Right.
it's also not pretending that it never happened. And I think it's really powerful to be able to say, like, oh, I'm really struggling asking for help in this situation because I've never been able to ask for help before and
Right.
rely on it. Or, and it goes to finding your own voice, right? And that can help you figure out what, if you don't already know, like what your vision is for the future and what's guiding you. And because maybe you're finding your voice and it's in reflection of the past, but it can also then help you as you lay out your future.
Yeah. I think at the core, right, is understanding what is your story, who is a safe person to share that story with, where can you put that down, like what can you take, you use the backpack analogy all the time, what can you
Mm-hmm.
take out of your backpack and put down, even if it has to go back in there, like
Yeah.
maybe you put it down and you shed some layers off of it, right? And being able to do that allows you to progress, whatever that looks like, right? Like whatever, maybe you're progressing towards a new job or a relationship or parenthood or dog parenthood or whatever, but it allows you forward movement instead of staying stuck in those old feelings that maybe aren't currently happening. But they certainly did happen. And as we know, if we don't process things, if we don't deal with things, they come back. They just keep coming back. And even frankly, when we do process them and deal with them, they come back, which is super fun. Um, and we have to work through those. We have to be like cognizant of that.
Well, and we didn't do a ton of research for this one, to be honest, because we just really wanted to wrap it up. But it was interesting, the little bit of research that I did, where it talked about how telling your story, just the act of telling your story, because it's acknowledging everything that you've been through, can help build resilience, right? It can help you find peace. It can help you find hope. It's like, oh, yeah, that's right. I did get through that already. Or I do have those tools in the toolbox to handle this because I've handled something else. And so, it helps you experience something maybe from a slight distance. And as we said, like, you don't need to be on a podcast, announcing your story to everybody.
Right.
You can write it in a journal. You can just tell a friend or talk about something that you've never talked about. And I think that it can be incredibly powerful and give you a sense of peace. And also be a great reminder. The one question that we asked each other a lot, and everybody, like, how did you build your vision and how did you make sure your values were in line with that? Um, I think sometimes we have the tendency to be too busy, and either sense of the word, either just like, I'm going to not stop moving because I don't want to stop moving, or legitimately like, I'm really busy, to forget to reflect.
Yeah.
And that reflection can build, like I said, resilience, and also, um, hearing other people's stories can help remind you of what you've been through or just what the human spirit can go through, which can be incredibly powerful.
Yeah. And I think, I mentioned this last episode. I've been re-listening to Toxic Positivity, and I think we are also conditioned by this like positivity culture, which, don't get me wrong, as she says in the book, I that thinking that there is toxic positivity does not mean that we should all be negative and miserable all the time, right? Like it's not an either or, it's all or nothing. And all or nothing thinking has gotten us into a whole heap of trouble at this point, so like
Mm.
please try to stop doing it. um just that's my PSA for today. Actually, I have more PSAs coming, don't worry. But she says, oh, and now I lost my train of thought because I was doing a PSI. But I was listening to it, and she was like talking about toxic positivity in the medical field. Like if you get cancer and you're not positive enough about your outcome, then it's your own fault that you like got worse cancer or something, like crazy stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think, there is a time and place for a positive attitude and growth mindset. 100%. I agree with it. Like I want to have a growth mindset. I want my kids to have a growth mindset, so on. and so forth. However, if you don't acknowledge the negative stuff and you don't allow yourself to feel those things or to talk about them, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been shut down in conversation by people around me who are like, well, you're just being negative about that,
Yeah.
or you're, like, it's not that bad for you. It's worse for this other person. And it's like, okay, I mean, yeah, objectively, maybe it is worse for that other person. That doesn't negate the feelings I'm having, right? Like, I'm not a robot. I'm allowed to feel. And I think culturally, the pendulum has maybe shifted too far to that sort of, you can manifest your way through it. Well, not without a plan, you can't. Like, you need to actually do something to
Yeah.
make those things happen. Yeah, have a positive attitude, but also, like, make a plan. Um,
And
I'm obviously very frustrated by this right
well, and I
now.
think it's important to note that it's not an either or between positivity and negativity. There's realism in the
Right.
middle. There's
Yeah.
reality in the middle. Like me being, I would say, optimistic and positive about my cancer diagnosis was because reality supported that belief.
Right.
It wasn't toxic positivity. It was, we caught it early. Here are the next steps. Here are all the numbers. This is the chance of it recurring if you do this. This is the chance of it recurring if you do this. So,
Right.
what are you going to do and how are you going to approach it? Like, reality is not, I mean, it feels like our reality is a hellscape and inherently negative, but like the day-to-day decisions, reality is not inherently negative. Like, there are very few days where every single thing that happened is bad,
Right.
or every single thing that happened is good. And I'm not saying that cancer is good. There have definitely been some things that have happened in my life directly the result of me having cancer that are actually good. Um, I still think it would be better to not have cancer, probably, like in the
Right.
long run, because it was a lot of stuff. But I think that part of where we get trapped is thinking that it's an either or of being
Absolutely.
positive or negative, when the fact is that reality is reality. And sometimes it's super positive, and sometimes it's super negative, and sometimes, most of the
Well,
time, it's in
hello
the
there,
middle, or
ladies. Are you ready to
oftentimes it's
elevate your life
both.
and connect with like minded
And
souls? Yes.
so
Join us every week
I
at the
don't
Go Boldly
think
Together
that,
weekly women's
you
circle,
know,
where strength
having fake
meets
positivity
sisterhood. Dive
probably
into
does help
empowering
somebody with a cancer
discussions, share
diagnosis.
your
I think
victories,
having
and navigate
genuine
challenges together.
positivity,
Our
like, I
circle is
trust
a
the
safe space
doctors.
for growth and
It's going to be
inspiration.
hard, but I'm going to
Experience
take
the
each
power
step
of
one day at
collective
a time.
wisdom and
Like,
unleash your
that
full potential.
helps,
Don't miss out
Like,
on
I
the
don't think this is
transformative
the end of the
energy.
world.
Click the
Right.
link in our show
Um,
notes or even visit us
yeah.
at in less
Yeah.
serious environments,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
Women's she Weekly
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
to learn
Yeah.
more about
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
Boldly
Yeah.
circle
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
Just pizza party our
Together,
way through this
let's
and
embrace
everything
the
will be
journey
fine.
of personal
Not if
development,
everyone's
and
miserable, like,
let's
yay for
celebrate
the
that
30-minute pizza
unstoppable
party, but then,
force
like,
within
everything goes back to the
each of
way it
us.
was. And nobody's positive attitude is going to change the fact that the working hours are unrealistic, or nobody gets to take vacation, or, there's no PTO or whatever it is. Like, you're not going to positive your way through that, right? And so I think it's been taken over as like a band-aid measure to
Mm.
solve problems, when frankly it just creates more problems. And if we all stopped this black and white thinking that is so immature and so, like, lacking in nuance, we would be in a much better place. And I know I'm lecturing and I sound obnoxious, but whatever. Like, really, the all or nothing of it all is just so wrong. Like,
Yeah.
nothing is all or nothing like that. I mean, unless you're talking about Nazis, and then they're all bad.
All bad. The whole lot of them. And people who hang
100%.
out with them. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Bad
because,
people.
that whole thing about, like, if you have one Nazi and a bunch of people having dinner with them sitting around a table, you have a bunch of Nazis, is what
Yeah.
you got. So,
Absolutely.
my grandfather would be proud. All of my grandfathers.
Yeah.
Like, yes, Nazis are bad. It also, toxic positivity, not to like gang up on toxic positivity here, but it has the tendency to normalize things. And this is,
Yeah.
I'm going to circle us back to where it's important to write your story and then tell your story.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think you and I both been in the position where we tell somebody something that we have normalized.
Yeah.
And the look of horror on their face.
I'm still thinking about the time when I was telling you about, like, some kid pulling a knife on me on our walk home from school. And I was like, oh, yeah, this thing happened. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And me thinking it was normal.
Yeah,
So that's
and it's
fun.
like, and so toxic positivity, and also telling the wrong people, like,
Yeah.
and I don't mean like bad people. I just mean people who aren't on your wavelength of like,
Yeah.
um, can have that effect. Like, you know, um, it is it does not need to be normalized, and that doesn't mean you can't keep going. And this is a whole other conversation. I don't know if you folks follow Emily in Your Phone on Instagram, but she has had a lot of these conversations about um, normalizing what is happening in our country right now,
Mm.
and how, in a certain extent, we have to do that just to exist.
Right.
And so I forget what she was saying because I wasn't planning on talking about this, but like there's jam summer and then there's like anti-fascist summer. Like it's like, and because you do want to just go to the garden and pick your vegetables and like do your thing, and then you also like need to deal with the bananasness that is our lives.
Yeah. I mean, that's what, that's what we've talked about a lot this season is like it's okay and also necessary to find the joy, to be a
Yeah,
part of, you know, the positivity, right? Like to be a part of the joyfulness of life. It's important and necessary. It's fuels us all to keep going and doing and being. Um on the flip side of that, putting your head in the sand isn't going to change anything, right?
right.
Like I mean that's micro to macro, right? Like if your hometown never raises a pride flag, if your kid is a bully at school and you've been told repeatedly and you do nothing, like all of these things build up to more. And they build into a bigger problem. And I'm not sure why I'm talking about this with a relationship to telling your story, other than like, let's all be honest about who we are and how we are in the world,
Yeah,
and tell our story honestly. And obviously, I'm angry about several things today. But like, yeah, if you know that your kid is saying mean things to other kids and you're just letting it go, or is being like has no physical boundaries, and there's other kids getting involved and they're like, that's not working for me, and you're doing nothing, or you're doing like the bare minimum,
yeah,
um you're part of the problem.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and I think that's not a good place to end exactly, but just having that conversation, because we've talked about this quite a bit, and I think it was really important that we highlight it during the season, and I want to highlight it now because it lends itself well into what next season is going to be about.
Yeah.
And we're doing another mini series season for August. We did that last year. We really liked it.
I'm
And
glad you're
so,
doing this, because this is where I was trying to get, and then I got distracted by my anger.
yeah, yeah, no, and so we're doing another mini season for August. We love it. We mentally, because of the, I guess, agrarian school calendar, can't conceptually think of launching something in August. So our big season is coming in September, which is also I'm really excited about.
Yeah, me too.
Um, but this mini season is a lot of focus on joy nuggets, my friends, and because Riley and I are not stick our heads in the sand people, but we also have to have realistic expectations of what we mentally and physically can handle at any one time. And so, with that in mind, we are going to be focusing on joy nuggets, and whether it's books we're reading or music we're listening to or rituals that we have, or there's another week and I totally don't remember what it's about, but we are going to be talking about
Oh,
how to,
we're talking about play.
yes, play, that's right, fun. How to continue to have those things. And I think it is really, really hard when you're like, there are floods. There are floods every day now. Like everywhere is having floods and people are dying because of floods. And like weird stuff is happening. And, like you don't know what's a distraction and what is the real problem. And then you're like, oh my God, it's all the real problem. And so it is incredibly important, not just for our mental health, but also for our ability to write our own story, to keep track of what our vision is, to keep our cup full for ourselves, and to be able to be vulnerable. We need to be able to make sure we're finding joy throughout our lives. And so that is season 12 and a half, I guess we'll call it.
Yeah.
And that's the next 4 weeks of August. They'll hopefully be fun and short, and hopefully we won't find any landmines. Like, I have a weird definition of adventure.
Oh no, we already found one. My problem with play. So
yes, we
we'll
did
talk
already
all
find.
about that.
Yeah, we had to change the whole focus of the episode from play to fun because we have a thing about play. We being the royal we.
Our collective brain.
But we are so excited. We really appreciate you joining us this season. And we really do encourage you to share your story, to write it down somewhere. If you don't know where to do that or you don't know how to do that, please reach out to us. We would love to talk to you about it. We would also love to have you join our weekly women's circle because that is where, you know, it doesn't all have to be like, I'm going to sit down and tell this person my whole life story. Like just little moments and acknowledgement. I mean, I had this experience yesterday where I needed to be acknowledged in my weird feelings because I was like, I don't know how to feel about this. And so I shared it with a couple of people and I got the appropriate amount of like outrage and also support that I needed to like let go and move on.
Right.
So if you need that, please don't hesitate to look into our weekly women's circle. We talk about it all the time and we would love to have you join us. And unless I'm missing something, that's about it on season 12.
That's a wrap on season 12. We'll see you guys next week for our summer series, our mini season. I don't know what to call it. It'll be fun. But we're excited to talk to you guys. So until then, set some boundaries, tell your story. I don't know. Don't be mean. Those are good. Those are good things to take away.
Find a joy nugget.
Find a joy nugget. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much for listening to We Go Boldly podcast. We know you're busy and we love spending time with you.
If you enjoyed this week's episode, let us know. Head to Apple Podcasts right now to rate and review our show. While you're there, be sure to click that subscribe button.
Want more us time? Follow us on all the socials at Go Boldly Together.
Want even more us time? As in all the coaching pizzazz. Find us at goboldlyinitiative.com for all the info.
We will be back with more excitement, research, and deep thoughts next week.
Until then, keep on being the bold, brave, amazing people we know you already are.